ReviewTyme is the home for all things theme parks. Stay up to date with our videos by subscribing and tapping the bell icon. This week saw the momentous grand opening of Rise of the Resistance at Walt Disney World, finally finishing a land that has arguably felt incomplete since it opened a few months ago. But this video isn't about what we got, it's about what we could have had. After Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm in 2012, Imagineers immediately got to work on what would eventually become Galaxy's Edge. While Star Tours had been seen in parks around the world for 25 years at this stage, this would be Disney's first time creating something with Star Wars that they had full creative control over. But these were not the only plans throughout the years to bring Star Wars to life in a Disney theme park, and various ideas would have involved the Mos Eisley Cantina, a ride atop a Bantha, or even a Death Star overlay for Space Mountain. For Review Time, I'm Luke, and this is the cancelled plans for the original Star Wars lands. Due to the overwhelming popularity and success of the launch of Star Tours in 1987 at Disneyland, it seemed like a no-brainer to include the ride at the upcoming Euro Disneyland. The task was given to the incredible Imagineer Tim Delaney, known for his amazing work and spectacularly detailed concept art. His original thoughts were much bigger than simply plopping down Star Tours and calling it a day. He originally planned for an entire Star Wars subland to be a part of this park's Tomorrowland. The only concept art available for these plans show what could have been expected from the land in this blue sky phase. We can see a full-scale and fully explorable version of the Millennium Falcon, a walk-around Chewie character, and of course the gigantic dome of half a Death Star, taking up the location of Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon. Whilst we don't know exactly what would have been contained within this Death Star, rumors floated around seem to indicate that you may have undertaken your very own version of the Trench Run, bringing to life one of the most memorable scenes in any of the Star Wars films. Of course, these plans never came to be. Disneyland Paris didn't open with a Star Wars themed Tomorrowland, but arguably the best version of Tomorrowland in the world, Discoveryland. Though Discoveryland did feature one of the best facades of any Star Tours attraction around the world. With these original plans shelved, it would be another 20 years until we heard of another plan to bring a Star Wars land to a theme park. And fittingly, it was again planned for Discoveryland at Disneyland Paris. Directly after Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm in 2012, rumors started to fly about a new Star Wars subland coming to the back half of Discoveryland. Set to open in 2015, the land would have replaced the area behind Space Mountain, enveloping Captain EO, the Pizza Planet restaurant, and of course Star Tours, which would have been upgraded to the Adventures Continue for this new land. Other than taking guests all over the universe in Star Tours, it would have brought the popular Jedi Training Academy to the resort in the indoor theater previously home to Captain EO, giving a nice all-weather venue to the show. However, the most exciting addition for Star Wars fans would have been what was to replace Pizza Planet, as it would have seen itself transformed into the most wretched hive of scum and villainy in the galaxy, the Mos Eisley Cantina, which would have contained some in-universe food, drinks, and of course, entertainment. The reason for the creation of this land was said to be due to Paris's reluctance to build an upgraded version of an attraction alone, as a Space Mountain Mission 2 upgrade had flopped for them, and the CEO of Disneyland Paris, Philippe Glass, was reluctant to greenlight simply an upgrade to Star Tours, without something completely new to advertise alongside. Of course, ultimately we never got this Star Wars mini-land for Paris either, though they did eventually give in and upgrade Star Tours to the Adventures Continue, being the very last park in the world to do so. In 2015, the year this second planned version of a Star Wars land was meant to open in Paris, we we got the official announcement at the D23 Expo of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which according to Bob Chapek, will introduce you to a Star Wars planet you've never seen before. A gateway planet located on the Outer Rim, full of places and characters familiar and not so familiar. But even now in 2019, this version of Galaxy's Edge arguably isn't complete, and is missing some key components we were originally shown for the project, including a third ride for the land and a true Star Wars dining experience. Ogre's Cantina, one of the highlights of Batuu, was originally designed to essentially be the pre-show lobby to an inclusive sit-down dinner theater restaurant as part of Galaxy's Edge. Think the Hyperspace Hoop-de-Doo musical review. The dinner show was set to contain live singers, dancers and musicians, as well as a healthy dose of audience participation. However, the experience was ultimately shelved due to capacity concerns. But don't worry everyone, for it will soon be possible to experience this cancelled show, if you're willing to pay the as yet unannounced but expectedly extremely expensive price to stay at the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, where the show will now be one of the staple experiences in the all-inclusive 2-night, 3-day adventure. One other sadly cut experience from Galaxy's Edge was the Bantha transport ride, which would have seen you riding on the back of one of these giant beasts, in what was called a callback to the old Pack Mules Through Nature's Wonderland attraction. The ride would have given guests a scenic overview of the entire land, from the heart of the city to the Resistance base, and back through the First Order occupied part of Black Spire Outpost. However, sadly this ride was cancelled for budgetary reasons, and with the way the land was constructed, it can sadly never really be added in through a future expansion to the land. We now know that a Star Wars land for Paris will, in a few years, come full circle. Disney Studios Paris is set to be home for the first international version of Galaxy's Edge, and whilst it may not have a giant Death Star in the middle of it, it will at least contain Rise of the Resistance. Elsewhere in the world, Hong Kong Disneyland has turned one corner of its Tomorrowland into another mini Star Wars land, similar to what was planned for Paris, with Space Mountain getting the Hyperspace Mountain overlay, and there being a meet and greet location next door. However, this mini land doesn't really feature any theming that screams Star Wars, and almost clashes with the Marvel land feel elsewhere in the land. But all of these weren't Disney's only plans over the years to use George Lucas's properties in their parks. And one of the cancelled plans was bigger than Star Wars. But more on that another time. Of course, things not coming to fruition is all a part of theme parks. There are probably more good ideas out there in the world that didn't get built than those that did. Whilst I wish I could ride on the back of a Bantha, explore Mos Eisley Cantina, or help destroy the Death Star, sometimes looking back and just imagining what we could have had satisfies my curiosity for another day. For Review Time, I'm Luke. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing.